What makes a commander deck focus? What makes it janky? What makes it competitive? We're here to try and figure that out. And also, we have the WWE Draft. Was it a success or was it a failure? Find out today on the Campus Wrestling and Commander Podcast, the CWCP. Hello. It is Ayinde back at it again with the College Wrestling Commander Podcast. Here with my best man, Eugene. Eugene, how you doing, man?
What it do?
Well, we got a lot to talk about today. This is going to be one of the first Magic Commander heavy episodes of our podcast, but we're not going to leave wrestling in the dirt. We're actually going to get to that right now with the WWE Draft. It's been interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I think they're just adding too much to a regular sports draft, like the NFL draft, the MLB draft, and the NBA draft, to where it's like, oh, this team's got it, and they're just trying to make this whole big deal of USA has this one wrestler, then Fox has the other wrestler. It just kind of gets bland and stale. It's good to use for those types of sports because there's 36 different teams, but with this, in this sense, I don't think it was a good idea. So honestly, I think their pitch for it is actually a failure.
Honestly, the one thing that the draft has really done so far is to solidify NXT as the show for WWE right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think because there's so much advent that had to go into the draft, there's so much business in the draft, outside and inside. This is them saying, okay, all this is for like the casual fans, but NXT is where the wrestling is. And that can help and hurt a wrestling company. We're going to see how that affects WWE going forward, especially with AEW Dynamite doing gangbusters in the ratings. And people are already saying that AEW has won the Wednesday Night Wars. I don't see it going. I don't see it that way after what happened.
Talking about Finn Balor
Yeah.
turning heel.
That is
Yes.
probably the best
Oh my
thing
God.
that for Finn. I mean, how do you beat that? Like AEW is, I'm not going to try and knock them. They had a really stellar brawl at the end of Dynamite. But come on. That is when Finn says his past is going to be his future. Everyone thought he was going to go back to what made him good in NXT. Oh, no, sir. We're going way back.
Yes.
Back
Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
times.
Yes.
So that's going to be something to really, really look forward to. However, we got a really good segment to talk about when it comes to Commander. Me and my buddy here have been thinking about this topic. What makes a Commander deck, well, a Commander deck?
Yeah.
What makes it focus? What makes it competitive? So we talked about it a lot, and now we're going to share our thoughts. So let's go ahead and pick one, and let's start with that.
Let's roll the random spinning wheel. Let's start with janky, because in Magic the Gathering terms, jank is referred to as bad, extremely bad, just putting in bad cards that just don't work. Sometimes do work, but just don't work. So, in the tiers of, for a little forward, the tiers of Commander is jank, casual, focused, optimized, and competitive. We're only looking at the three big ones: janky, focused, and competitive. But literally, jank is just so much fun sometimes. Essentially what jank can do is you just throw around a certain theme. Like, I once ran a deck that was just called The Chair. It was Oloro Ageless Aesthetic, which he's literally sitting on a chair, and I just threw in stuff that just had seats in it. Did it work? No. But dang, was it fun?
Yeah, jank is basically you're in it for the fun time, not a long time. And there's some really funny jank decks that are just there that you don't think work, but then you're like, oh, I guess it does work. But how do we build a janky deck? Well, let's start with picking, I don't want to say a right commander, but a fun one.
Yeah.
Something you can sort of have fun with. Eugene, I know you have more experience with building some jank decks. So what would you consider a really janky commander?
Well, that's actually a good question. A janky commander can just be anything, but I would have to say that my jankiest commander was definitely Narset, focusing on Enlightened Master, which focused around just a staff and just her magic wand, just flipping it out. So if you don't know, Narset Enlightened Master was once tier 1. Now she's not anymore. She is a red, white, and blue 3 generic mana for first strike and hexproof. And whenever she attacks, she exiles the top 4 cards of your library. And until the end of turn, you may cast non-creature cards exile with Narset like for the end of that turn. Well, literally, people used to play with infinite turns and extra turns. I just did it like this. Hey, I'm just going to play a random bounce spell or a random I'ma just gain control of your stuff spell. And just the stupidest things. I put in 8 mana cost non-creature spells that no one else would use. And just like, alright, I'm just putting this in there. And just boom. And just started direct face sometimes. Other days it was just like, ooh, why did I run this?
Yeah, I think Jank is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just fun. Like, honestly, I think a really funny janky deck would try to be Ishkanah, the Ishkanah Graph Widow.
Yes.
So Ishkanah Graph Widow is a legendary spider, 4 and a green with reach, and it has delirium. Where if and when it enters the battlefield, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, put 3 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield, and you may pay 6 and a black. Target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. Literally just fill the deck with spiders.
Yes.
You fill it with a spider. You fill it with things that create spiders. Just literally, and then call it Spider-Man.
Or this, because I actually have this one, arachnophobia.
I see what you did there. I like
See?
that. I like that. But janky decks are the decks that you play when you're just trying to have a fun time.
Yeah.
What if you're trying to win? What do you want? What do we want to build? We want to build more focus decks.
Yeah.
So how do we go around doing a focus deck?
Well, let's actually talk about what's the difference between focused and competitive, because focused decks and competitive decks could be the same, but they're not. We both want to win, but focused is more in lines of I want to win but have a good time. Competitive, a lot of competitive decks is more about how fast can I get to this point? How fast can I win? You can still have a good time, but not a lot of people think about that. But what makes a focus deck is that you're achieving some sort of goal. You have some form of goal that you can meet, and it's more of a budget kind of standard. You are meeting these things because, like for me, a broke college student, I don't have enough money to buy Gaia's Cradles or the Moxes or Force of Will. So I resort to other things like just the plain old cancel and plain old counterspell to get like a basic counterspell out and not having to spend all that money on it. But the focus decks just a lot of it like revolve around just the main idea of how you're going to win. A lot of it may be just doing combos, but it has a certain idea like burn, tokens, control. And so what do you think, Ayinde? What do you feel like could be a good focus deck?
It honestly depends on what your play style is. I'll give a couple of examples from our play group. I play a blue-green Prime Speaker Zagana deck. She is 2 green and 2 blue for a 1/1 legendary Merfolk Wizard. She enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, and when she enters the battlefield, you draw cards equal to its power. So I built the deck. The theme of that deck was I want to be able to draw cards and benefit from drawing cards. So I put in a lot of cards like Psychosis Crawl, which says that every time I draw a card, each opponent loses a life. I put in cards like Lore Scale Codal that says whenever I draw a card, I put a +1/+1 counter on it. And so I'm focusing the deck on the ability to draw cards. So I'm putting a lot of draw spells on it, putting in a lot of big creatures that let me draw cards. That's to me, that's a deck that I've been working on a lot, and you and I have been building that for a little while now.
Oh yeah.
And we have started to focus that because before it was very like I had the draw theme, but also a +1/+1 counter sub theme. But we took that out because we saw that, we want to focus that and we want to really, really build off of the fact that you want to be able to draw a lot of cards. That is what the deck is.
Yeah, and the other thing, a focus deck is pretty much the main theme, and there can be a sub theme, because in most of my decks, there's I'm just gonna talk about my Zergo deck. It's what I call it. It's not what you think. Because everybody believes that Zergo can only be a Voltron commander or an Enchantress commander, but I turn him into Angel Tribal. The theme of it is play as many angels as you can and just beat face and win. But since angels cost so much, and I'm not getting the right draw, I just pop out Zergo and just beat face with Zergo. And so Zergo is just my sub theme. Even still, like a focus commander has that idea of the main theme and that sub, and that's what really separates focus from competitive, because competitive is just that theme. How do we move for it? What synergizes with it? Focus decks know synergies so well. It's like whenever you do this, do that. Or you prevent people from doing things, so you just stick all the controls in there. So we're going to actually talk about a couple of nice focus commanders or nice focus commander decks that we played or we've experienced. I'm going to start off by saying, honestly, any Simic commander can be pretty focused. Like there's some very strong ones, but like honestly, we can do Tatiova and Ethic Druid to where I just play lands and I draw cards and then go back to that drawing card sub theme. Like that drawing card main theme. I'm just drawing cards because I'm playing lands, and then next thing you know, I turn my lands into big creatures, or because I play land, not only am I drawing cards, I'm making bigger creatures, and I swing for game.
Right. Also, if you really want to find like focus commander, honestly pick a commander that has a tribe built into it. Like Kalia the Vast, she's a angel, demon, or dragon commander that lets you put any one of those creature types from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Build around that. Which one do you want to focus on? Example, my Kalia deck is focused on dragons. I call it Khaleesi because she is the mother of dragons. So I put everything that makes dragons, anything that helps me make more dragons, everything that makes everything that I own a dragon. And I ran with that. I'm just running with the theme, really focusing and tuning it so that everything in that deck synergizes. And it's not about getting there quickly, because obviously, I would need stuff like I would need Mana Vault. I would need a lot of the Moxes so I can just get to playing Kalia in like turn 1 if I really wanted to. But it's more, you're still focused enough to where you can go up against any other deck, even a competitive deck, and still do really well.
Yeah, exactly. And my focus deck currently right now is my Yarick ETB effect deck, where it's literally anything that enters the battlefield just boom, just does something. Like literally about a week ago, Ayinde and I, along with a couple of other buddies of ours, we started playing Magic, and next thing you know, I created 432 tokens, plant tokens, because Avenger is handed card and just copying that ability. And so there you go, just stuff like that. That's what really works. Now moving on, we're gonna go into what makes a competitive deck. What breaks the barrier for competitive decks? And the biggest thing that breaks the barrier for competitive decks is the turn 1 to turn 3 combo. If you can combo off within the first 3 turns, then you're pretty much a competitive deck. It's kind of like Jeff Foxworthy. If you know that you can combo off in turn 1, you might be a competitive deck. There's a lot of competitive cards out there, such as Food Chain, which just makes practically 98% of the competitive format. And what Food Chain does is that you exile a creature card, and then you get X plus 1, where X is equal to the mana cost plus 1. And so one of the top tier Food Chain decks right now is General Tazri, to where he's just search for allies with Food Chain. And then you have Najila, which is the warrior tribal one, and she does that as well. There's also a lot of Blood Pod competitive decks. That's crazy. Yeah. I'm actually building one of those right now, so.
Yeah, the big thing with competitive decks, like we talk about, is the speed. The speed of how you want to get to your end game. Like Zerdy Enchanter, for instance, you're not playing an enchantment style deck with Zerdy Enchanter. You're trying to get Necropotence.
Yeah.
From no board state to being able to win as immediately. Almost as if like no time has passed.
Exactly. And that's what makes those decks hard, is the fact that, and what makes it, no, not hard, but more or less boring for me. Because I'm always searching for the exact same combo. Like, I faced a couple of friends of mine. My most powerful deck is my Lavinia Azorius Renegade deck. And it's Lavinia Knowledge Pool. It's literally, I pull out Knowledge Pool to where you can't win. I used to make it to where by turn 4, you Knowledge Pool's in my hand and you've done lost. But that just got super boring because it's not fun to a lot of people. As well as if when I'm playing the exact same thing over and over again, it just my opponent's trying to target me on how fast can I kill him before he can get out this combo. And that just isn't fun for me. So I don't know about you, Ayinde, but
No, competitive commander decks are they're fun to watch. They're not fun to play. It's infuriatingly beautiful watching a really competitive commander deck going off in like turn 3. It's honestly kind of scary. But then you have to you have to think and put yourself in the seat of the person that's playing that deck. What is the thought process going into that deck? You know exactly every single time you're facing against a new opponent. You're like, all right, I know exactly what I need to do. I have a plan A and a plan B. If neither of those work, I got plan C. But ultimately, your mind is on. All right, I got this one thing. I know exactly what I need to do. Turn 1, this, that. Search for this, and then put that on the battlefield. Search for that. Put this to hand. Search for that. Pass the turn. You have a board state in like turn 1, and that's. It looks like it's fun. It looks like it's great, but then when you're playing the game and you're doing that over and over and over again, it gets stale. And that's why we play a lot of focus decks because it allows us the opportunity to say, "Oh, well maybe I'm not going to win that way, but I have another way to win."
yeah.
And it's still and ultimately it's still fun. That is the big problem. Competitive decks are not fun.
And we're not bashing competitive decks, or like we're not saying if you are a competitive player, competitive Magic player, then by all means, like screw you. No, it's just our flavor and our preference. If you like competitive commander decks, I'm actually part of a bunch of Facebook groups about competitive commander because I find it interesting about how to combo off. But if you really like it, do it, go for it, push for that. But that's just not our thing. And I much more prefer like those 2-piece combos. Definitely a 2-piece combo like my Jace Unraveler Secrets plus Rule of Law or Spirit, no, Eidolon of Rhetoric, where it's just you can't play more than one spell, and then Jace Unraveler's Secrets is ulted, and now I have an emblem like the first spell that my opponent's cast is countered. Think about this is an 8-mana thing, so
And even though it's still 8 mana, that's still time you have to keep adding loyalty counters to Jace. You have to protect Jace. And so which there's a level of unpredictability there.
yeah.
With the competitive commander deck, there is some form of unpredictability because you don't know if somebody has a force of will of hand or has a pact of negation in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, if you can get everything you need out in the first turn, there's no stopping you.
Yeah.
So that's a couple of. I know we wanted to talk about how to build a casual deck. Since we have some time, why don't we talk about like how to build a really good casual deck? Honestly, build what you want.
Yeah. Just build what you want. If you see a card that you really like, I remember my very first casual deck was Moly Momero Sorcerer, which is literally 3 green and 4 generic for a star. His power with trample. He comes in with power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. And I'll never forget it. It's the most casual deck I've ever had, and it's just ramping until he gets big. He is probably one of my favorite commanders, and I still think about building him to this day. And that's just the thing, though. Like, don't be afraid to explore and venture out. If you want to make, you know, if you want to make a Vorinclex deck, though people might hate you.
Yeah, people will hate you if you play Vorinclex.
You play a Vorinclex deck, by all means, make it. But make it the best way how you can. Or if you just have a bunch of cards laying around, find which ones synergize with each other. And just build a deck around that. And then people at your local game store or just people that could be your friends might have different cards and be like, hey, here you go, fine tune your deck. And that's what I like about the MTG community is that if we don't have the funds for it, or if we just like have all these cards laying around, there's a lot of people who are like, hey, I have this card for you that will go great in your deck. I know I've done it with you, Ayinde. I've done it with all of our other buddies. I have like a very large collection, and it's like nothing still makes me happier than when I can help people out and when people like when my friends also helped him out. I also find this one funny. You could also make an Anthusa Stesian hero deck, which is very hilarious because she has heroic. So Anthusa is a 2 green, 2 generic with a heroic. So whenever you cast a spell that targets her, you untap a land and becomes a 2/2 creature that's still a land. Why? I don't know. But now that's pretty fun. Make something like that, or just do what you want and have so much fun, man. And just that's all what MTG is about, is having fun and winning and losing and learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why like Magic has been around for so long, and why the Commander format, while still always being seen as a casual format, has been getting a lot more traction because you have the entire breadth of Magic at your fingertips.
Yes.
And I mean, you can build literally anything. And the best part, you only have to buy one of every card.
Yes.
You don't have to buy 4 copies of a fetch land. You don't have to buy 4 copies of a breeding pools or your shock or any other shock lands. You don't need 4 of everything. You just need one. You need to buy one and you are done.
Exactly.
And yeah, 100 cards sounds like a lot, but I've built commander decks in like maybe an hour, maybe 2. It just, all you need is a couple. You need at least what 30. The spread for lands is like around 35 to 37.
35 to 37 lands, and then the rest of it wherever you want.
Right. You get a commander. You're like, all right, let's just build off of those colors, off that theme, and then the rest is yours. Like, you just choose what you want, and that's why I love this format. I love standard. It's a fun format. So is modern. They just came out with a new format called Pioneer, which I think is going into effect after the Mythic Championship. But Commander's just so much fun because you have so much fun playing Commander games, and it's a strictly multiplayer game. You cannot have a fun you can have a fun 2-player Commander game, but it is so much more fun when you got you and a group of friends just sitting around and playing Commander. Your guys are politicking to one another. You're trying to make deals, and that's what the game is about.
Yeah, exactly. And essentially, just going back to recap on all of this. Essentially, what also separates focus and competitive is also the land base. A lot of competitive decks has those mana rocks, those artifacts, those 0-drop artifacts that just come out and tap for any mana of any color, whereas a focus deck is reliant on those lands. And, I don't have $80 to shell out on an arid mesa kind of thing. I don't have $40 to even shell out on a polluted delta. But granted, still, like, this still makes Commander so much fun. You don't have to worry about a fetch land. You can just shove in an Evolving Wilds, or now the Fabled Passage. Like, you can shove those in, and those are those cheap fetches, and nobody will ridicule you for them. And that's the biggest thing that I love about this format, about Commander, and just about the community. It's like, yes, these people can afford fetch lands. These people can afford 0-drop artifacts. And the Gaia's Cradles and Tolarian Academies, all these very expensive cards, because they've either collected them or they just have the money to buy them. They might have all that money to do so, but they don't ridicule people who have money just for an Evolving Wilds, a Terramorphic Expanse, which both do the same thing, search for a basic land. Or if a random person just pulled a Fabled Passage, which is the newest basic land fetch land from Throne of Eldraine. Still, it's like they have those things now, and they can make it work, make it worthwhile. So that's all I have to say about that, and that concludes this episode of
the College Wrestling and Commander Podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and we're gonna have one of our new segments in which we're going to pit 2 decks together, and we're going to talk about the strengths, the weaknesses, and who would win. Thank you guys. This has been Ayinde and Eugene with the College Wrestling and Commander Podcast.
We'll see you next time.